Here we are in sunny Florida. We are in Miami. We are here to do an interview with a special guest, a friend of mine that I used to play with in a band called Sky. But he's gone on to do a whole bunch of other things. He is a multi-talented musician, keyboard player, and 3D animator.
He's worked with the likes of Star Academy, Rihanna, Cirque du Soleil, and Enrique Iglesias, just to name a few.
You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome to Basement TV. Here we are in Miami with Richard Maheux. Richard.
Wow,
Richard.
ça fait longtemps.
It's been, I don't even want to say how many years.
I was trying to calculate it, but I'm troubled because you didn't change, so maybe it's not that long ago.
You're not aging, it's hard.
You, my friend, have not changed at all either, except for your career. Your career path has changed immensely. When I first met you, you have a brother that also plays, does he play drums?
He played drums, yes.
That's right. And I remember that you were doing a lot of work with him.
Back then I was, of course, playing with my brother, which is a good drummer. He did Cirque du Soleil for 10 years as well. And, but then, anyway, you know, I went to school, blah, 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 and University in Montreal. And then I got this gig at some point. I mean, it's funny, like, I finally get where I wanted to be in school at University of Montreal, and then the next semester I got a gig to go play in Asia. So I disappeared in Asia for 4 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
that's true.
And that's where I met Michael Letricitz, because that Circuit of Asia band, he did that as well.
That's
So
right.
anyway, so the Michael, everybody knows Michael somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Montreal especially.
Yeah.
Everyone's worked with him.
It's the link.
So anyway, when I came back from Asia, I got in contact with him, and I ended up being his roommate in Montreal, and from there everything started. Like, because
That's right.
Michael knows everybody.
I remember because I used to be producing, and we were producing partners, and I used to go to the house, and you had moved in. And
Yeah.
that's where I first met you, and Michael was like, this is Richard, keyboard player, and you know, he does a lot of editing and a lot of programming and stuff like that. And then you went on to work on what is Montreal's sort of like America's Got Talent, which is called Star Academy. And you were offered a job to start doing programming. So it was like drum programming and keyboard stuff. And that was through Antoine Sicat, I believe, that hired you.
Yeah, so yeah, all the arrangement, and Antoine would just tell me what he wanted on the album, and I would make the arrangement, everything, record a session, the guitar player or the violin player, whatever, and then Antoine would put a stamp, yes or no, and
Right.
that was it.
Right.
But that was pretty intense because, you know, that was has to be done quick, and
Done quick, and it happened to be the most watched TV show ever in Quebec.
Oh, I was obsessed.
yeah.
I'm curious because you were saying that you had finally gotten to the place that you wanted to in school. Was that in music or?
Yeah, well, I was like, it was a jazz piano, but you know, like at first I wanted to go to St. Lawrence, what everybody wanted to go there, and then I didn't get that, so I ended up in Drummondville, so which I meet a lot of nice people. But after that, I wanted to go to UM and like the piano jazz interpretation, which So I didn't get that, but then I end up there anyway, about general for a year. And then finally I get the place in jazz interpretation with Luc Beaugrand. But then, by then I was like, okay, I need to do something.
Right. So now after your education, you're like, okay, I need to either start playing with some people and start making connections. And I think the biggest connection, like we said, was moving in with Michael and then working on the Star Academy record, although you weren't named during award ceremonies, because that still won like one of the biggest records.
Yeah, album of the year, the Evangeline was a song of the year.
Right.
And then we work on Marie-Mé and Marie-Hélène. It was Emily. It was all the
All of the
branches
winners.
also.
Well, there's
Those
a
were-
lot of stars,
Well,
especially in that
that was
season.
the first year. That's where Marie-Mé got
Yeah.
her start.
Yeah, so Stormy, I think it's 2004 and 2005.
Right.
So those 2 years. So yeah, I was pretty busy with that.
Yeah, that was a really intense, and I remember it was extremely stressful for you to be
Yes.
working because you were thrown in with the Sharks. It was like, okay, you're out of school now, you want to work. Michael put you to work, and he was like, you're going to meet people and blah blah blah. And then Antoine put you to work because you were doing like a big bulk of that work on that record. Then after that, there was more. I think we got more into live playing.
And well, I think the main thing, what happened after that, I had a gig in those band that plays in casino. So we end up in Atlantic City, and then I met my girlfriend at the time, which turned out to live in New York. So at some point, I just kind of moved in New York,
Right.
but it was not a thing that I never thought about. It's just like, oh yeah, okay.
Following love a little bit.
Yeah, and then why not? And it turns out that she was well connected because she was working in a very famous venue over there. So there was only like really great musicians. So
Right.
I met great musician right off the bat, and from there, I mean, it was like a bunch of back and forth with Canada, New York, for a while. And then I got a couple of, a little tour over there. I have to remember, but one was like with kids, like a kids bop. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
Kids bop?
Kids bop. It's a famous thing for kids in the U.S.
Okay.
So anyway, there was a tour, so I did that. But
Did you have to wear a costume?
no. It was just.
I didn't know if there was maybe like a suit or something like.
But anyway, it's always like you met one person, you met the other person, and
Right.
then in that band it was this great guy that I mean all of them, but these guys connect me to more the Broadway scene in New York. So I did a couple of Broadway shows, which were the most famous one would be Rock of Ages.
Very cool. So cool.
So I did that. I didn't have the official chair, but I was like subbing like twice a month maybe.
Right.
But I was subbing the keyboard player, which
It's a huge part.
he's the musical director. So
Right.
so you have to do all these things like all the cues and.
Right.
So that's very stressful because in Broadway there's no rehearsal.
Right.
There's no rehearsal. You just learn your stuff. You get the book, and I was lucky enough to go film him in advance. But that's it. Like, okay, when you start playing, is everything with the crowd, and you have to do the cue with everybody, and that's because they don't deal with that. There's no rehearsing there.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I don't know, 15 years ago.
15 years ago, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And my age is a secret,
Yeah. Well, you're ageless. You look ageless.
It goes with the territory of entertainment. You can't say how old
That's
you actually
a
are.
pretty big gig. I had no idea that that's how it ran. I'd be so stressed.
Yeah, no, that's very stressful. I mean, especially for the cue stuff, because the musical director part of it, I mean, that's one thing. But anyway, so I did a couple of these things, and then Rock of Ages I did often, like twice a month, and I sub on tours because there was many productions. So I did a couple of tour of Rock of Ages, but like US tour thing.
Right.
And then now I'm still doing it, even the show it's not running, and I'm still doing it because it's not the show, but it's they call it the Rock of Ages band, Broadway band. Anyway, it's just the band.
Okay.
We're playing the song,
Right.
but it's the same guy we were
Right.
that
So
I
it's
was
not
doing
the actual theater piece, but it's the music behind it.
Yeah, so it's fun because they say it's the same guy playing, and then once again we have great players like Joel Oxtra. He played with White Snakes, and then
Right.
you got Al play with Joy and Jet, and they all like actually play for the real people.
Right.
So that's great too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference.
It's not the official Broadway, but it's the people from the show.
I think it's pretty awesome to have the difference between the corporate bands. You know, it's like in Montreal to the corporate bands like here.
Where the musicians from Joan Jett, Whitesnake, no big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Well, I mean,
Like,
yeah, I think that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's awesome,
So now, how you're in New York? Okay, we're gonna back up.
oh yeah.
You're living in New York, and how are you getting a connection? And what was the call that you got where it was like you're gonna be playing with Rihanna?
Once again, it always come down to you meet these people. So at that point, especially with Rock of Ages, that was so many musicians because
High-profile musicians.
there's a lot of subs, so
Yeah.
so it's moving, and so you meet the guy, and then the next day it's the other different guitar player, because it's like at least 8 shows a week. So there's a lot of you meet a lot of people just for that one show,
Right.
for example,
Right.
and of course the other one. So anyway, the Rihanna, I'm not sure exactly what it came about, but I think it's one of those things like Tony Bruno at the time, which is a funny thing. He used to be the band leader of Enrique Iglesias back in the days, and then he switched to Rihanna. But it has nothing to do with me anyway.
Right. It's just a coincidence.
No, yeah. So because at that time he was with Rihanna, and then the keyboard player just left for the end of that leg. It was only one leg left for that tour with the last girl on earth.
for the viewers, when we say a leg of
Oh.
a tour, how long roughly is that?
It can be short, can be long. It's like a stretch that they plan. Like, okay, we're doing.
So it could be like you're gone for like a year though.
It could be that, or it could be a month. Like
Okay.
in my case, it was. They only book until. I mean, they already played that show like a long time, so they were kind of the end of that production. Let's
Right.
say. So they needed someone to go for the shows in Australia. So
Okay.
it was a couple of weeks in Australia, and that would be it pretty much. So anyway, I guess he just asked around. My name just pops up, and I guess he was also didn't have much time to find someone, or I mean the right time, right moment kind
All
of
the
thing.
stars align.
Yeah.
I like to back up a little bit on that. And you know, because you're super, super modest. And I think that even people like yourself, you forget that it's not just luck. You just weren't at the right place at the right time. It's because you're an awesome human being, because I know you as a human being first, and you're obviously capable to do the gig. So those two in combination, being on time, being an awesome human being, people refer you for those reasons. And I think those are like the big critical things of why you get, you know, a gig like that, and why we're gonna talk about more of the other gigs that you're getting, is because of the combination of those things.
Yeah, definitely it has to be a combination of many things, because I know so many keyboard players that just like so amazing. I'm like
Sure.
they're like
Sure.
I'm like I was like, how come I got the gig? Like they must.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's
But
like
of course, like for that gig also, there was all the keyboard side of it, all the programmation. So they need someone that really knows the sound, because I had to recreate everything from scratch,
Right.
because the guy I had his own setup. I had to recreate everything. So that's that, and yeah. So it's
It's a lot of work.
but yeah, those guys were incredible. Like first of all, Nuno, but then Court on guitar.
on guitar, like hello. And how does that feel to be listening to the songs growing up, and then realizing, looking over to I don't know if you're looking over to your right or to your left at Nuno, but going, I'm playing with Nuno.
Yeah, no, it was very surreal. And the other guy too, like it's just monsters. Like just like,
Monster players.
how come I end up here? Like it's insane. And then our first gig, I think the first gig was the Grammys.
That was your first gig.
Yeah.
Eh,
And then
when I say thrown to the freaking, once again, he's thrown to the sharks, you know? There we go.
and there was another show, I forgot the name, but it was like on stage it was Drake, Rihanna, and Kanye West. And that was my second gig. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Meanwhile, he's going, why me? Why me? Why me? Like surrounded by like
No.
titans of the industry.
Yeah, exactly. And in those places, I mean, like Grammy, it's just the fact of walking around in the back alley is like, oh, Mike Jagger just passed, and just everybody's right there. It's like, oh, holy fuck, that's
This is for real. That has to be surreal. Like, because we all grow up dreaming of even just going to attend the Grammys, to watch the Grammys, but now you're not watching. You're looking at the audience, and you're on stage. It just must be mind-blowing. And at that point, it must be a huge confidence builder.
Well, it needs a lot for me to.
But it has to be. It has to be some type of like confidence builder to do something like that.
Well, I mean, I still am the same. So it's not like I feel, oh, I'm suddenly better because I did that. But
Right.
Well, for some people, like it does change their mentality. It's interesting that you've remained so humble.
well,
throughout
I'm
the
still
success.
next to Nuno and with those guys.
Right.
It's
It's still humbling.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
like okay. I'm just pretty. I'm just gonna be grateful I'm here right now.
Do you feel like sometimes I'm just gonna shut up until somebody notices I'm actually here?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like all they call it.
Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
We talk about that a lot on the show.
lot.
Yeah.
Because we talk to other people like yourselves who have maybe come from humble beginnings. They've made it quite successful, or what we would deem successful in their career, and they're still going, why are they calling me for the gig? Why me and not, someone else that you admire potentially?
Yeah.
So no matter how big the gig you get, you play the Grammys.
Grammys.
I want to talk about when you do gigs like this, and coming from Montreal, and we've talked about this issue with other guests about the concerns of making sure that you're properly compensated for your work. So money, do you go in with the thought of money, or do you just want to be a part of the project?
Oh, I mean, I hope I'm gonna be compensated because I'll be in trouble. But I mean, it's not what I'm focused on for sure. But of course, I mean, you expect to have at that point. I mean, if they give you a few bucks and it's like, that doesn't line up here. Like,
Right.
Like, okay, that could be. But I mean, you assume you're gonna. I mean, everybody's got in my industry, like everybody's got paid differently, and you don't know what the other guy has. And it's, I mean, so far it's been like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know if am I getting screwed? I don't know.
Right.
Because it's fine. As long as it's fine for me.
So at this point, you know you're going to get compensated as long as it's relative and it suits your means. You haven't gotten screwed.
But it depends also if you is it just a one-time gig? Is it? Sure. Are you gonna work like Whitney and Enrique? It's been 12 years now, and then we're pretty steady this whole time. So it's like I don't know. It's always depend of
Are there
so many
contracts involved?
No.
That's surprising to
Higher
me.
gig and you're on call, and there's no guarantees of when it could end.
Yeah, I mean, in that business is
Right.
just
That's so surprising to me. I thought that everything would be so like
no.
pen
There's
and
no
paper.
union. There's nothing like that.
Any musician just wants to get paid fairly. And if you feel it's fair for you and everything's relative to your lifestyle and your, it's like, and the experience that you've had, in years, you want to pay to your scale of your lifestyle. So as long as you're getting paid in the work that you do and you're getting compensated, then it's a beautiful thing. And why shouldn't you? And it's also given you a lengthy career, because you've been now, before we move on, now you move on to get a gig for Enrique.
Yeah, was that from your connection from Rihanna?
Yeah, and then we just skip one just because I watched a little bit Ricky Pajot.
Yes.
and he shows like a little movie of him on stage, and
Yeah.
and I was like, oh shoot, that's that too. So when Ricky left the show for Delirium, because that's when he got a nice contact for that brought him in the U.S. I think. But anyway, I'm the one who took the last leg
Yeah.
of the show.
That's incredible.
With
So
Cirque,
Ricky,
yeah.
let me back up. So one of our guests, Ricky Peugeot, had actually played for Delirium for Cirque du Soleil, and believe it or not, coincidence or not, Richard was the one that replaced him on the last leg of that tour when Ricky left. So that was your in now
Yeah.
to Cirque du Soleil.
And then that's where I met also Desi DeLoro there.
And you met
Yeah,
that was
his
a
wife.
very nice tour in Europe. But it was like 4 months, and then the show just closed down after that.
Right.
But that was a great tour.
Did that lead to anything else?
Well, just the name, I guess.
Yeah.
That's another nice name to put. And
Oh yeah, sure.
I
On
gotta
your
get
CV.
this footage
And,
of you though.
yeah, I
On
have the
stage.
same suit with the
Wait,
accordion.
you played the accordion too then?
Yes, I was
Okay.
doing the same.
Yeah. Wow.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's a small world.
It's a really small.
But I knew
smaller
a little
industry.
bit Ricky from back in the days when they were playing. What was that bar in Montreal?
Jello bar.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. So
That was the click.
yeah.
So now after Cirque du Soleil, it finishes. 4
Okay,
months,
Cirque du
done.
Soleil, and then Rihanna, blah blah blah, tour, this and that, and then at some point, same kind of thing happened. Enrique Iglesias, keyboard player, needed to go, and they needed someone the next week. So they had like a week to find somebody.
Oh wow.
And Van Roman was the band leader. He's still the band leader. Van, a good drummer that plays with Steve Morse.
Yeah, my God.
Yeah, and Nina and so many people. Anyway, once again, we had like, I didn't know him, but like just on Facebook, he had like at least 40 common friends.
Sure.
And he just asked around, my name show up. And then he came to my house. We didn't even have time for an audition really, because like to send me songs, like that was it. The next Monday I was in Mexico with them on stage, and
Just a random in-house audition.
yeah.
Insane. So now you're in Mexico with Enrique Iglesias. In case anybody
Doesn't know who
doesn't
Enrique
know
is.
who we're talking about.
Did you have like a time frame? Like, did you know how long you were going to be gone for at all?
That gig is great because it's not like, those tour like people like, okay, we've gone 6 months non-stop playing every day, going crazy, and then you come back and then you have nothing for 3 years.
Right.
Kind of because the artists decide to do a new album and then whatever, or change band completely for the next tour. Blah, blah. Enrique is like super consistent. We always never got crazy tour, but like a couple of shows a month. Nice, always nice one. I mean, we do like even like private one, like crazy private one, but
Yeah, people that got money that can hire Enrique, we'll do it.
we'll do it. Yeah. So so that's kind of the perfect gig because I got to come back home.
And you say home. So at this point, where were you living?
Oh, I was in New York.
You were in New York still. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's already 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when did you make the move to this oasis that is Florida?
Oh, I guess I got influenced by the COVID.
Yeah.
It was like a coup de tête.
A wake-up call.
Oh. Anyway, the decision was kind of just, okay, why not? I mean, Enrique's here. Our percussionist is here. A bunch of other guys now. So
It just kind of made sense to like migrate here too.
I mean, it's not like it changed something really because all the gigs are somewhere else anyway. So we're just flying. But
Right. That's true.
anyway, let's go let's follow the sun.
Yeah, it wasn't really a business move, just pleasure.
No,
life.
I mean, if I knew that COVID will be, because I mean, we stopped playing for all this time, and I got very comfortable not hustling for other gig. So when that stopped, like everything stopped. So I was like, okay, now what?
What next?
What next? That's why I started doing like 3D animation that you were mentioning and stuff. And it's funny. My first, I mean, I'm still kind of new with that, but my first video that I did was with another guy who moved down here because our percussionist moved here and he played. You know, I'm sure you know Richard Maheux.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I made a video, like an animation and all kind of thing for him, for one of his songs.
Yeah, so because I was looking at your website and you have a bunch of different videos. So a lot of your 3D animation is for music videos, would you say?
Well, I mean, yeah, mostly music video, yeah.
I think being diversified in this industry, in the entertainment industry in itself, and artistic, should I say even artistic industry, I think it's only smart to like have a few different little tricks under your sleeve to be able to say, hey, by the way, I can do that for you. And people are, oh, really? Okay. And you don't seem to lack any work. All of a sudden, there's maybe less time for practicing, but there's more time to actually make some extra money when you're not on tour, when you're not doing local gigs, when you're not doing corporate gigs, you're still doing something that you love. So the whole point is to be doing things that you love, where you don't have to work security. Like I know personally a drummer that played a whole tour with Selena Gomez, and also played with Little Nas, and when those tours are done, he was doing security for a TV show called Nashville when he moved to Nashville, and now you're out of your element of playing and doing what you love, and I think that kind of makes you think about maybe where you live, maybe the things that you're doing, but just having that consistency of being able to do what you love. And he's gone on to actually do exactly what he loves now, and got into video also, and started posting a lot more, and being like more of a creative content creator, and blowing up on TikTok. But I think he made a decision too, like, I need to do what I love.
I think it's like learning, knowing different languages. The more that you know, it can only help you.
Yeah, but at some point, it's if you want really to specialize, you kind of have to decide. But that's the tough part. Like, but yeah, of course,
Sure.
the idea.
But just deciding what you love. I mean, all growing up, most of our lives, we ask ourselves, what do you, when people ask, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? 18, 19 years old. Maybe we were a little lucky because we started, younger, and we knew exactly that it was music that we wanted to do, whether it was going to be a rock star or not. We didn't know that we'd be playing, it's like on stage, or whether we'd be working in the studio, but we knew that music was a core part. But a lot of people, they live their lives trying to figure out what their passions are. And you're super fortunate to be able to have found things that you love to be able to do, to be able to sustain yourself and live a life that you obviously, this is beautiful.
I've been lucky. I mean, up until COVID, I never worked any other thing than music, and I never had to look for a gig. They always kind of show up in the perfect time, and I'm always okay. That I never really struggle until COVID. Like, everything stopped, and I was like, oh, okay, that's how it feels. Now I guess I'm gonna have to hustle. Like, and also I'm older. Like, it's like, oh, shush.
You've had it good for like a while.
Yeah,
that was a good run.
Yeah. But I guess you can never be too comfortable.
Yeah, I think.
But I think it's also I always do projects that I love, and sometimes I forget about it should make me money a little bit too.
Sure.
And I forget that part, so I get that and those projects, and oh shit, that actually takes a lot of time. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, you become diversified. You find the things that you love to do. As long as you gravitate towards those things, I think you're never going to feel like you're missing out on something. And I think that's what you've done in your career. You've really been able to like work, sustain yourself, and it's something very similar that you have to like some people that we have interviewed, is even like Ricky, is that you didn't have to audition. You just happen to always have work, and it always sustained you throughout your career. And you've been fortunate enough. Please, let's find some wood. Knock on, knock on a palm tree. That you've been able to do this. But once again, I'd like to say that it's because of you being such a humble individual, playing with some of the biggest artists in the world, and still feeling like, I don't know. And that's why you're loved so dearly in the industry, and I'm sure that's why you sustain yourself, along with you being an absolutely talented musician. But I think that human element is something that people forget, and they forget that when you walk into the room, people are happy to see you, and it makes for a better environment for the whole group, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, like if you're cocky,
Yeah.
whatever, you won't
You won't last.
last long.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. It's really about having everything line up to the artist's need, especially if they're hiring you. They want to have, like, I mean, you're spending a lot of time, on the road with these different people, and it's almost like, or it's very close to like having a relationship, with another person.
Right.
Yeah, and you need to know your place in the show. Like we saw some people that was almost trying to compete with
Here we go.
the artists, and that
Stay in
that
your
didn't
lane.
fly.
That's right.
And that's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, we were taught that, stay in your lane, as Ricky
Uh-huh,
Maheux would
stay in
say,
your
right?
lane.
Said basically, know what your role is, know what other people's roles are, follow your role. He let everyone else do
I mean,
what they're there to do.
some people, okay, they can put it off, but in general, that would be a good idea.
That is a very good idea. If you're the keyboard player, don't try to pretend you're the musical director and start directing other people in the band. Yeah. Do what you got to do, because then you're stepping on other people's foot, and then it creates, even if your intention
Yeah,
is good, you're causing conflict, and that is like a super important rule for any young musicians, and I think I'd like to ask you, what advice would you give a musician if they'd want to play with like a huge, act? What is the most important common denominator that you would say that's important when you walk into the room?
I think you just have to be yourself. As soon as you try to show that you're the shit or something, I mean, these guys, everybody, they did it for so long, and they see you coming for miles. Like, they're like,
my
it
God.
won't work.
Love that.
It's just be yourself.
Love that. There's no point, right? Because they're going to catch you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, my friend, this has been awesome. Loved having you on our little podcast that we call Basebin TV. And thank you for inviting us to your beautiful home and your surroundings. And I wish you nothing but the best, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. I cannot believe you show up here, all the way in Florida.
Basebin TV will be everywhere. We will.
Wow.
All right, thanks again, Richard. We really appreciate
thank
it.
you. Bye-bye.
And we'll see you next time on Basebin TV.